Welcome to Real Judaism with Rabbi Klapper. Unfiltered wisdom for Jewish life.
Okay, we're here. Chelek Gimel, Perek Yud Aleph, Ois Beis, and Daf Kuf Lamed Beis. So we started to discuss last week about the intricacies and the little details that are involved in Hilchos Shabbos. And even ad kadei kach, that the punishment, even for a small transgression, you tied a knot the wrong way, right, has the potential to be a chiyuv skila. Even the smallest thing, it's a bigger punishment than if a person commits murder. How could that be? How can we understand that? So here in Ois Beis, and we'll finish up, I hope, the perek today, Ois Beis and Ois Gimel, we can have a better understanding what exactly is going on Shabbos, that we can appreciate the seriousness of it. So let's see the he's going to bring a mashal. Let's see what he says. We see from everything that we brought just before in the last year, the way that you treat your hands. The way you treat your hands on Shabbos has to be different than the way you treat your hands during the week. Chazal refer to hands as they're busy. Hands are busy. There are various different halachos that hands are busy. One of them is that if a person is careful with tumah and tara in general, and he's tahor, so then we can assume his hands are tahor. But if he's not paying attention to what he's doing with his hands, we automatically assume that they touch something tameh. There's such a thing called meseches yadayim. Meseches yadayim is that there's a special tumah that Chazal put on just on the hands. Just on the hands, because yadayim askoni yosein, because the hands are busy. Sometimes our hands move, we don't even realize. The hand is not an involuntary muscle. It's not like the heart that just keeps beating and it moves involuntarily. It's not like that. It's not like breathing, which you can be unconscious and you can still breathe as well, right? Certain muscles in the bodies move on their own. Our digestive system, more or less, moves on its own. You don't have to think about it, right? But there's certain parts of the body that are voluntary muscles, right? When I move my hands, so it's moving voluntarily. I'm deciding how to move my hands. But sometimes we don't even realize that our hands move and do things we don't even realize that they're doing. And because of that, they may end up touching things that shouldn't be touching and become tameh. So therefore, Chazal instituted netilas yadayim. We have to wash our hands because the hands touch things. In fact, one of the opinions of why we wash our hands in the morning, every single morning, is for this reason. One opinion is that there's a ruach tumah that comes on the hands. That's one opinion. And the other opinion is that your hands touch things at night. We don't realize it. And because of that, they need to be washed. They touch tummy parts of the body. So they need to be clean. They need to be washed. So the hands during the week are askoni yosein. They are busy. On Shabbos, we have to guard our hands. They say about a certain gadol, I think. It may have been the Stipler, but I don't remember 100%. That when he passed away, the people doing the tahara on him, so when they were like setting him up, they put his hands to his sides, and his hands automatically moved up to his stomach or to his chest, and that was like weird. And they did it again. They put his hands down, and again they moved up. Because he was so careful with his hands during the course of his lifetime that his hands knew that they don't go there. They don't go below his belt. The hands never go there, right? So automatically his hands move back, which is quite an amazing story, right? It's quite an amazing story. But if that's how you train yourself your whole life, that's who you are. So we have to realize our hands are supposed to be. We have to be more careful with our hands on Shabbos. They have to be different hands. Right? There was a Reish Galusa Bustanai who comes from the line of David HaMelech. This was written up. This story is written up. Rebbe Bustanai, Rosh Golus, Mashabali Yisrael al Yado, Val Asher Chosmim Biyad Beis David V'Chois Motzura Zavuv. This Rebbe of Bustanai, he had a symbol on his own seal, and it was a seal from Beis David, but on the seal there was a picture of a fly. Zavuv, a fly. It may have been based on the story. It actually may have been a mosquito. Yeah, but we'll see the story in a second. It may have been a mosquito. Why is this a seal? Where did it come from? Vayigdal Bustanai v'yigmal v'yamlad Torah Mishnah Talmud Halacha v'Chachma Tvuna. When he grew up, he learned Torah, he learned Mishnayos, he learned Gemara, he learned Halacha, he learned Chachma and understanding. Vayigad leMelech Paras v'yitu l'rosoi. Right, he was told to the king of Persia, that area that was the king, and it was told to him about this boy who was like a wonder child, who knew so much Chachma. And the king of Persia told his son to bring this boy in front of him. And the Kodesh Baruch Hu gave this boy a certain chesed, chen, from David haMelech, and when he was standing in front of the king of Persia, and he stood in front of the king. And the king of Persia and all of his servants were astounded by the chachma of this boy. He stood there, stock still, from the moment he came in till the evening. And he did not move his head. And he did not move his legs. Right? It was a certain fly or it could have been a mosquito. We'll see what happens at the end. And it was like on his face. It was like the crown on the top of a pomegranate. And it bit him. It bit the boy, and he didn't move. He didn't flinch. And there was blood coming out of his face, coming out in front of the king, and he didn't move. He asked him, what's going on over here? He said, the king asked him, how can you just stand there like that? So he said, I'm standing in front of the king. You can see this thing is causing him suffering. It's causing him pain. They said, why don't you get rid of it? He said, I have a certain halachic that I got from my ancestors. From the time when we step down from our malchus, because he's from Malchus Beis David, from the time that we stepped down from our malchus and we had to stand in front of other kings, when we stood in front of a king, we did not talk, we did not laugh, we didn't pick up a hand, we didn't do anything. We just stood there with respect and awe of the king. And this was very good in the king's eyes, the king of Persia, in his eyes. He told his servants that he should be the Mishnah HaMelech. He should be second in command. And it was given to him presents, Kiyad HaMelech, meaning the way that a king presents presents on that level. Rosh Galios Yisrael. This is what should be done for the man who is the head of, I guess maybe this wasn't a boy, he was already a bigger person at the time, but this should be done for the Reish Galus of Yisrael, or the future Reish Galus. He was still young, he was still the future Reish Galusa, the head of the Galus of Klal Yisrael. That's why on the stamp, the way they would seal their documents, the stamp was a picture of this zvuv, of this insect that represented their strength an understanding of how do you stand in front of a king. This is amazing, really an amazing story. This is how you treat a king of Basar Badam, a real king. That when you're standing in front of the king, lo yorim yado or raglo shelo b'rishus haMelech. You do not pick up your hand, you do not pick up your leg without the king telling you. Nothing. Therefore, what is Shabbos? Like we mentioned so many times, Shabbos is that the king is here. We are actually standing in front of the king. Right? When we're standing in front of the king in Shemona Esrei, we know you can't move. That's it. You're in one place and you're there. Till you finish Shemona Esrei, you're standing in one place. You're not moving. You should know, there's even machlokesim about whether you should shuckle when you're davening. Right? It seems like more or less the minhag is to shuckle during davening. But there are those of the opinion that a person should not shuckle during davening, and it's for this reason. Because if you're standing in front of the king, why are you shaking like that? You should be standing stock still, like you're standing in front of the king. That's how you should be standing, because that's proper respect for the king. It's there's definitely certainly something to it that shows the respect. So that's what Shabbos is. We're standing in front of the king. This is the way a person acts. Shabbos is I am in complete control of my body. Complete control of my body means that when I'm standing in front of the king, I do not make a wrong move. Now, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not telling us that on Shabbos we have to be standing like we're in Shemona Esrei, even though he already did say earlier in the Sefer that is what it's like. Just like in Shemona Esrei, we're standing in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so he called it before. It's a long Shemona Esrei. Shabbos is one long Shemona Esrei. We are standing in front of the king. Now, HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want us to be standing like that the entire Shabbos long. He doesn't want that. What does HaKadosh Baruch Hu want? HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to realize we are standing in front of him. If we are standing in front of the Rebbeinu Shalom, so then our hands have to be doing what they're supposed to be doing and not doing what they're not supposed to be doing. We don't have to be standing there and not moving, but we do have to be very, very careful about what our hands are doing and what they're not doing. Shelo laharim yad o regel below hormona de malka. To not lift a hand, to not lift a foot without the permission of the king. This is it's such an appropriate mashal, really, because Shabbos is so strict. It is amazing. It's amazingly strict. But when you realize what's the reason behind it, right? If you do something against the king, so then even if it's something silly, even if it's something that's really not meaningful, but it was in front of the king, you acted in a disrespectful way, that's it. Off with your head. And that's what it was for Dorei Doris like that. And there's some places in the world that is still like that. And a person has to be extraordinarily careful. You're standing in front of the king. I know, obviously, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is merciful and loves us, and he wants to do the best thing for us. But there's a certain protocol. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to act in a certain way. And that shows respect. And that shows greatness for him. And we need to act that way. Because if we're going to act that way in front of some earthly king, and we don't act that way in front of Hashem because he's so merciful and he loves us so much, that's a lack of respect. That's a very, very big problem. So let's finish up the parak over here. Maybe the shiur will be a little bit shorter tonight. The Megillas Esther, Matzanu, Shenikre Misharsei haMelech, Srisei haMelech. In the Sefer Megillas Esther, the Megillah, so we find that those who serve the king are called the Srisei haMelech. Now, generally, the idea of Srisei haMelech is going to explain here. Yesh mefarshim shemish haya oimedu misharsei haMelech misrasim oso milahoilid. A sris is also a word that connotes, I think the English word is a eunuch, somebody who's been castrated. A man who's been castrated that he can no longer have children. He can no longer impregnate. And it was specifically those people who were the servants of the king. L'choira hamuvan sha'adam oimedu misharet lamelech tzarich sha'asaros yitpus as kol nafsho muso. When somebody is serving the king, you have to realize your whole life is dedicated to this. I'm here serving the king. That is my entire life. What if you have a family? What if a person has a family? He has a home. He's got a wife, he's got kids. Then he's always going to be thinking about his family. He's going to be thinking about his wife. He's going to be thinking about his kids. He's not going to be 100% with the king, because there's always going to be, he's going to be thinking what's going to be the well-being of my family, of my children. He's going to be able to be 100%, his mind is going to be 100% with the king. And it's for that reason that they would be castrated. So that they wouldn't have families. They would have no desire to get married, and they would have no children. So that they could dedicate their entire lives, everything that they were, just for the king. That's it. I have no other life. There is no other life besides for the king. It's quite extreme. But that's, once upon a time, that was the norm. Obviously not for everybody, but it was considered to be a great honor to be in the service of the king. And if you understood, there was no future. You had no future, right? There's no children that are going to come in your place. There's no Yerusha that you're going to give over. There's no inheritance you're going to give over. There's no legacy that you're going to leave over for your family, for your children. You realize that I have only one thing in life, and that is to serve the king. So then that's what I'm doing. That's my 100%. I have no ulterior motives, because what else is there? I don't have family. I don't have a future outside of this where I am now. I have no ambition to become rich. I have no ambition to become great and powerful, because what's going to be left of it? At the end, the only thing that I have is to serve the king. That's it. They didn't have anything else in life. Only service to the king. That's it. That is what grabbed them. That's what their whole life was. There's no other priorities. So Rapinga said, going to tell a personal story that he heard a while back from a principal, somebody who ran a certain school or a certain organization in the United States. Even though nowadays we don't have the idea of a king so much, a president is not really a king. His term is very limited, and even his powers to a certain degree are limited. So it's not exactly the same thing, but even so, the president of the United States is the leader of the free world, is perhaps the most powerful person in the world. We can have a certain understanding that there's a certain greatness over here. So this story was told by this Menahel. There was one time the president, doesn't say which president it was, the president was going to take a tour of their facility, of their irgun, or their school, whatever it was. Before the president comes, so the president's people come, and they check and they make sure that everything should be done properly here, as befits a visit from the president. They took down all the pictures, any pictures that were hanging in the welcoming room were taken down. In the auditorium where he was going to speak, there were drapery. There was drapery. There were drapes that had a certain very nice decoration on them. And the president's people came and they took those draperies down and they put up very simple drapes. What was the reason why they did this? Because if there is something in the room that the president was going to be in, that was going to be something that was an adornment, something that was going to be decoration, even a little bit, it's possible that when the president comes in, hakishut yitzfos as eno, It's possible that decoration, that picture was going to grab the attention of the people away from the attention of the president. The idea was that there should be nothing there that should take your attention away from the president. If there's something else in the room that's going to take away the attention from the president, we need to take it down. When the president comes, there is nobody here but the president. Everybody needs to be paying attention only to the president. So we have to make everything else look pale in comparison to the president. So if you have too many fancy things and it's going to take away the attention from the president, we need to take it down. We need to get rid of it. How amazing. How amazing is this a mashal to Shabbos? That's what it is. We are standing in front of the king. Even our enjoyment on Shabbos, that is for the honor of the king. Like we said, the first thing we said in the Sefer, Shabbos is Hashem's day. It's Hashem's party. And if we're here at Hashem's party, so then Hashem wants us to eat, He wants us to enjoy, then that's what we're going to do. It's for His kavod that we're doing it. Well, also, we cannot forget for 1 second that we're in Hashem's party. That means, of course, a person is supposed to enjoy, but you have to realize you're enjoying all the wonderful food and the singing, and it's wonderful. You're standing in front of Hashem. Don't forget that. Everything you're in front of Hashem. Hashem wants you to enjoy, then you're going to enjoy. But don't forget, we're standing in front of Hashem. Now we can understand. We can understand if a person is really, really feeling and thinking, I'm standing in front of Hashem. I'm standing in front of Hashem. And Hashem is everything. And this is Hashem's day, and this is Hashem's party. Then there can't be anything else. I can't have any other things. That's what it means, I'm standing in front of the king. So when we come back to the beginning of the parak, when we're talking about how severe the halachos are, because when you're dealing with a king, everything has to be done perfect. Every single detail. Now, I was just reading an article. Just yesterday, we have an inauguration of a new president. And I was reading an article from last week about what happens on the transition from president to president. Within the span of like 1 day, it's really over the course of a week, but within the span of 1 day, there's a switch over that by the time the new president moves into his new home, everything is perfectly done. Everything is perfect. The pictures are exactly where they're supposed to be. His favorite foods are already in the kitchen. The beds are already made. All the specific toiletries that the family likes are already there. Every little detail is taken care of by the time he moves in on the afternoon after the inauguration. Every single little thing is done, as if he lived there the whole time. That's how you treat a king. Every single detail has to be done. And certainly, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu, He wants us to act in a certain way. He's coming. This is His day. We have to treat it that way. We have to treat it like, how could it be that I could put my hand on something and then I put it again? Like we mentioned last week. That's a poshea. It means you're not being careful. It means you're not respecting that the king is here. That's what it means. But we have to come with that mindset. And like we said last week, how do we come with our mindset? Well, we could do active things on the outside. When we get dressed up for Shabbos, we shower for Shabbos, we clean up for Shabbos, we do sponge up, cook special foods, we get ready early, light candles. Even a person who here in Beit Shemesh, those who keep the minhag Yerushalayim, they light candles 40 minutes before Shkia, so that we're ready already. Shkia is Shabbos, maybe a few minutes before Shkia, it has to be like a Tosefet Shabbos. But 40 minutes is a long time. In most places in the world, it's not 40 minutes. But we're ready. We want to be ready. The king's coming. If the king was coming, he would be ready way beforehand. Every week the king's coming, and that's how we really have to look at it. In the next parak, Be'ez Hashem, we will see when it comes to Hilchos Shabbos, that is the mahalech. The Hilchos Shabbos is, what is the protocol for approaching the king? What's the protocol? So you have to know every single little detail. Yeah, I have to know every single little detail, because you mess up one thing, oh boy, you're standing in front of the king. Yeah, in Russia, it used to be, the Tsar he would inspect his soldiers, and if there was one button that wasn't shined up properly, forget about it. Because where's the kavod? Every little detail. It sounds crazy, but when you're standing in front of a king, that's the way we have to behave. That's the way we have to act. Okay, we'll stop over here.
Thank you for joining Real Judaism, where we explore Torah's wisdom for real life. Created by J Foundations and produced by Ellie Podcast Productions. Find more episodes at realjudaism.org and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.